So we are what-ifing today for the vlog area. We are what-ifing self-reg and report cards. So the reason, just to give a little bit of background to this is not really specific to Ontario. We're going to just talk in general about self-regulation, self-reg and report cards. But it is sparked because of something that's going on here in Ontario. Last week I read in the news that Ontario is looking at changing the K-6 report card, and the language on it was modernizing it, and which I personally applaud. It's a good thing. It's got self-regulation on there, and used in a different way than I've ever understood it to be, which causes some of the confusion. But it also opens up this whole conversation about, for me, what is the purpose of a report card? You know, really, I've got it on all sides as a parent. I've been a teacher. I've actually constructed a report card, and I've worked in it in a whole bunch of different areas. So what is the purpose of it? But then also, you know, self-reg and report cards. Where might we go with thinking related to that? Because I think it's an important piece. I love 21st century skills and all of that. I think it's really important stuff. But to me, self-reg is a core of that. So I'm going to open it up. Where do you think we start on a conversation like this?
Exactly where you just started it, actually. You know, why are we doing this? What do we hope to accomplish? Are we coming even close? I had a very interesting experience. As you know, I've never been a real big fan of this.
Yeah.
And my son had a job this summer, his first job. He was a hockey coach assistant. And he had to do the report cards for the kids at the end of the week. And so we had this long conversation. He hated doing it.
Yeah.
And so I asked him, you know, well, why do you hate it so much? He said, well, because every time they did it to me when I was playing hockey, it just made me want to quit. And I thought, wow.
Yeah, it's true. So, you know, that always raises a challenge for us about, you know, what our role as an organization that's focused on self-reg, you know, has to do with, you know, what we could contribute maybe to the conversation. And I just thought it would be interesting. I thought back to my own experience as a parent, okay? So knowing that it is a communication tool and it's a relationship builder with parents. And I really believe, especially for children in the earlier years, that it's a big piece of them learning about themselves as a learner and feeling good about who they are. It doesn't mean there's not things to work on and all of those things, but it's a celebration. So I thought I'd tell you about Madame Denis and Sienna's report card in kindergarten, okay? So I got Sienna's report card in kindergarten, and this is obviously, she's in grade 4 now, so this is quite a few years ago. And wow, we had such a celebration. We went to this special restaurant in, I still have pictures of it, in Yellowknife. And we sat and I shared with her, she obviously couldn't read the report card at that time. I shared with her the stories that were in there. But here was what was neat about Madame Denis' report card. Within it, she told me a story about it, and a story about Sienna. And she told me the story of how, this is under the social studies, by the way, so it was in an area around citizenship, I think was what she was commenting on. She talked about how Sienna had become very upset because there were some boys in the playground that had found an anthill, and they were looking for anthills and doing what little boys do. And so she rallied a group of little girls, and then eventually the boys, and they created, first of all, they protected this, and then they began this little anthill.
I love that the teacher told this story.
The teacher told me a story about Sienna, and it was actually, and you know, as I read that, and it's just one example of the report card, but what I recognized was that I as a parent, I loved reading and recognizing that this teacher knew my child.
Yes.
And that, I can't tell you what that feeling felt like as the parent on the other end. There were things, she had advice in the report card, and she had given me advice outside of, it should never be just in the paper. There are conversations that happen throughout, as I believe, like throughout the year. We talked about different things I should do, and there were things I could work on. But this report card was a celebration of Sienna, and recognizing her individual, you know, the things that really cared about, and then tying it back to curriculum. She still did that. And it was, and I think she probably did this for each child and sat down and thought, okay, what what can I remember about this child and how can I bring that in? And it was special. I appreciated it so much.
So it's a wonderful story, and it's wonderful in so many ways because I found it kind of inspiring. And so I'm thinking that if I was a teacher writing report cards, right away, I hear that and I want to do this too. And on a deeper level, or a meta level, it made me think about how I see self-reg and what I see us doing. And it's sort of like when we bought this house, there was this room that we really didn't like. And what we could have done was we could have just torn it down, but instead we started to think about, what were the possibilities? And you've seen my steam sauna, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that room now, probably, we turned it into a steam sauna, and it's probably the most used room after the kitchen of the entire house, one of our favorites. But the point is that what we're trying to do when we're reframing things, like reframing the report card, is not to say, well, this is a tear down.
Mm-hmm.
It's what are the possibilities here? What are the things that I can do that are so creative? And we bring that attitude with us in all aspects of our life, whether it's cooking or,
Yeah.
what can I do? And that's that's what I loved about your story. Here we have this practice. Now we know that there are problems with it. What are the possibilities here? How can we turn
Yeah.
this into this incredibly enriching experience for Sienna too, by the way, and for the teacher and for the mom and dad, and
I
that's
love
great.
that. I love that.